Hello and welcome to the show. Before we begin, a warning. My neighbors seem to be very chatty this morning, and so expect some of the noise to bleed in over the microphones. So, now, with that warning out of the way, let's get into the topic for today. I was having a conversation with one of my older cousins recently, and she said that marketing and searching for clients and opportunities is some work. Now, what does some work mean? It means, given the context, that marketing and searching for clients and opportunities is hard. And of course, she has good reasons for saying that. Well, the context is that she's a mental health advocate, and her initial business was making custom-made pillows. So, if you're interested in mental health advocacy issues, peak mental performance, those sorts of things, then check her out. It's Doe Speaks, Dough, Doe, and then Speaks, Speaks. So you can find her on most social media using, if you search for her, using that. I doubt she's on TikTok anyway, but I'm sure you can find her on LinkedIn and other places using that. So, for her and her professional colleagues, that's those people in the mental health space, these are the sorts of things that they deal with on a day to day. How are you? How's your mental health? How are you coping with work? Are there any parental issues that need to be dealt with? What else? Those sorts of things. Anyway, so back to the context of our conversation. So, marketing and searching for clients and opportunities is some work, meaning it's hard. And yes, it's hard because looking for people online is hard. Looking for people in real life to talk to who might be interested in your product or service is hard. Starting business conversations, that's also hard, especially if you've been looking for people online or in real life. Most of these people that you're approaching are going to be strangers. That's because early on in the business, we exhaust our friends, family, and associates. You've spoken to everybody in the office about your custom made pillows. You've spoken to everybody in church about your custom made pillows, assuming that you're like my cousin, and that's the business that you started off with. So you end up talking to everyone that you know about your custom made pillows, about your legal practice, about your architecture services, about your wedding photography, about your whatever it is that you provide. So eventually you have to start talking to strangers, and starting business conversations with strangers is hard. Promotions online is also hard. You have to worry about copy. Well, first of all, you have to worry about which site you ought to be on. LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Google. Then you worry about your copy. How should you word it? What what giveaways, what price discounts, or what value should you be trying to promote? Those sorts of things. So promotions online difficult. Promotions in person difficult. That's assuming you also go to a physical event to promote the business. Then, from all these activities, you have people that you have to talk to. Those are leads. Following up with them is hard. Phone calling is hard. Emailing is hard. Driving to meetings is hard. Oh, by the way, should I go back to emailing? Emailing, I think, is even more harder than phone calls because at least phone calls, you're in the moment. You can catch when you're moving off point. You can easily pivot. Email, temptation is there to just keep on pouring tens and hundreds of letters, and you can easily go off point or end up being effective over email, and so you don't even realize. So, even though people resort to emailing because technically they think it's easier, it's a lot more difficult than making phone calls. So, if you want to be effective and reduce your error rate, you're actually better off doing more phone calls than emails. But anyway, people never listen, and so they'll continue doing their emails, even though it's easier to be ineffective there. So emailing is hard. Now, driving to meetings, it's also hard. Well, not really hard per se, but then there's all the time that you take away from your normal schedule, and then the big thing, dealing with rejection, is hard as well. That's because some people are rude, some people are not interested in your product or your service. Some people are merely curious. That's why they engage you in the conversation, even though they don't want to buy now. And then people are going to give you all sorts of reasons like you're too expensive and blah, 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 and things of that nature. So these are the many reasons why searching for clients and opportunities and marketing is some work. This is the reason why it's hard. So, my response, anyway, is that marketing and searching for clients and opportunities is not just some work, meaning it's difficult, but actually it is the work that we should be doing, no matter what business that we are involved in. So, yes, it's tough, but actually, it is the essential part of the job that we ought to be doing, marketing and searching for clients and opportunities. The reason why it is not just some work, but the work, is because if we don't do the work, you're not going to get profits. Now, remember what I said. We start off looking for people online or in real life to talk to. If you don't do that, you're not going to end up with profits. If you don't know how to start business conversations, there's not going to be any profit at the end. If you don't do promotions online or in real life, you're not going to end up with profits. If you don't do follow ups, phone calls, emails, driving to meetings, you're not going to end up with profits. If you don't learn how to deal with rejection from rude customers, from dissatisfied customers, people who are not interested, people who are merely curious, people who are going to say you're too expensive, you're not going to end up with profits. Because you're not going to open up your business shop, open up your Instagram page, and then profits are going to come and meet you where you are in your living room or in your office or in your factory. It does happen for some people, but chances are it's probably not going to happen to you. If it was going to happen to you already, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You'd be sitting in your factory, in your home, in your office, and the profits would already be flowing to you. There are some other people who are chasing not profits per se, but who are chasing impact, social impact, environmental impact, spiritual impact, whatever. Like my cousin, she just doesn't only sell custom-made pillows, but she's a mental health advocate. So, yes, she wants to make millions selling her pillows, but then she's also worried about the average Nigerian, how you guys think, how you guys sort out mental health issues, especially as it relates to the family, mothers interacting with daughters, fathers interacting with sons, and things of that nature. You're not going to achieve the impact, social, environmental, spiritual, or whatever, if you don't engage in this sort of work. If you don't look for people online or in real life to talk to about mental health issues, you're not going to get the impact. You don't start the conversations, you won't get the impact. You don't do promotions, you don't promote your work online or in real life, you're not going to get the impact. If you don't do follow up calls with people that you've already started talking about mental health issues with, if you don't do the emails, if you don't drive to the meetings, you're not going to get the impact. So, this is not just some work, meaning it's difficult, but it is the work, the thing that's absolutely essential to bringing in your profits and bringing in the impact that you're looking for. So, like I said, mental health advocate, you have to create a customer, in quote, because customer is not the right word to use here. So, for the mental health advocate, you have to create a customer, and you don't do that. And if this is your ministry, then Nigerians continue to remain mentally unbalanced, mentally ill. I'm not sure what the proper term is these days. I'm trying to be politically correct. So you don't create a customer. Your customers remain ill, unhinged, unbalanced, or unsatisfied with their lives. If you sell pillows, you have to create a customer, or else your pillows are going to remain stacked in your warehouse or stacked in your home. Are you a wedding photographer? You have to create a customer. And when I say create a customer, basically, I mean the individual that is going to come at the end of all these processes for marketing and searching for clients and opportunities. So, if you're a wedding photographer and you don't put in the work, you don't create customers, your equipment is going to remain idle in your store or in your studio with no one to shoot. If you're an architect and you don't create a customer, you don't engage in marketing and searching for customers, clients, and opportunities, then it means that the money that your parents paid for your school fees, your fancy degree, architecture degree, and also your fancy master's degree that you did abroad, school fees is wasted because you lack the interest or the ability to market and search for clients and opportunities. It's because you don't know how to look for people online or in real life. You don't know how to start conversations. You don't know how to promote. You don't know how to follow up. You don't know how to deal with people saying with rude people or people saying that you're too expensive. So, Marketing and searching for clients and opportunities is not just hard work that needs to be done, it is the main work that needs to be done. And that's part of the reason why this podcast exists. Because I'm trying to get you, dear listener, especially the average Nigerian business owner, to appreciate that it's not just your technical ability that will determine how successful you are. It's not because you're a talented architect and you went to the best design school in France that's going to make you successful. It's not because you're a talented wedding photographer and you have the best equipment. It's not because you make the best pillows, or it's not just because you are the most what's the word, charismatic mental health advocate. Those are not the things that are going to guarantee the profits or guarantee the impact that you want to make. It's all the hard stuff. So, if you are listening to this podcast, you're already on the right track. I suppose that you're listening to other podcasts as well. But in looking for things to learn about and improve upon, we should always try to find out how do we look for people to have conversations with who might be interested in our product or our service. How do we find them online? How do we find them in real life? When we find these people, how do we start business conversations with them? How do we do promotions online so that people can hear about us and also in real life? How do we follow up? Phone calls, emails, SMS, WhatsApp, Telegram, driving to meetings, networking sessions, whatever. How do we deal with rejection? That's when people are ghosting us, when they're rude, when they're not interested, when they're merely curious. How do we deal with objections? When people say we're too expensive, they have to talk to their partner before they go ahead with us. They don't think we can do the job. How do we learn to do all these things? So those are the sorts of things that we should be learning about, and those are the sorts of things that we talk about over here on the podcast. So if you subscribed, you are on the right path, and you are with the right family, and you're well on your way to making sure that you can get the profits or the impact that you desire. Speaking of subscribing, the majority of you still listen to the show using the web browser. So subscribe for free. It doesn't cost anything. Surprisingly, some people think it costs something to gain access to. Maybe it's because people have Apple Music, and for Apple Music, you have to pay a monthly, at least in Nigeria anyway, I think it was a monthly 1,000 something, I can't remember how much, to gain access to the catalog. So at one of my speaking engagements, and I mentioned subscribe, somebody asked how much, and there were a bunch of people that were surprised that it's free. So it's absolutely free. The show, Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. You can subscribe on Spotify, on Google, Apple iTunes, Pocket Cast, Anchor, Overcast, or any podcast player of your choice. So, now that we're done with today's episode, I will have to call it quits now because I have a session coming up at 11. It's currently 9:35. I have a session coming up at 11 with Foundry, where we're going to be looking at ways for. Gosh, I can't remember the topic. I should check my notes before we begin. Anyway, the summary basically is what we're going to be looking at. We're talking to all these tech entrepreneurs, and we're going to talk to them about how we can look for potential customers and how we can convert those opportunities so that people end up being paying clients. Although, as you know how the tech community in Nigeria can be, the actual title sounds more fancy than that, but that's the reason what we're going to do in that session. And let me see. Okay, yeah, I think it makes sense that perhaps tomorrow's podcast episode should be a recap of what those issues were. So even though you guys are not going to be a part of that session, that's if you haven't registered already, you'll still be able to learn about some of the things that we discussed during the session. Let me see. Okay, spoiler. If I do that, then it's going to be a much longer episode because this is supposed to be the session I'm supposed to have with these chaps is supposed to be an hour, but of course, there's going to be question and answer. So I'm assuming we'll probably do an hour, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, 45. So expect the podcast episode to be a long one tomorrow, maybe 30, 45 minutes. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next recording. I'm your host, Tavishima, and yes, my name rhymes with Hiroshima. See you at the next episode.